Bismillah, let's finish off. Okay, Yalla, Bismillah. Where did we get to? We are now moving on to verse number 50, right? 50 and 66.
Yes.
50 and 66. Yalla, Bismillah. Verse number 50 and 66. Okay, verse number 50. So we talked about the gardens. We talked about their descriptions and foliage. The first question that comes up after you talk about the gardens and foliage, where does the water come from? Where does the water come from? So Allah says, with regards to the two higher gardens, فِيهِمَا عَيْنَانِ تَجْرِيَانِ. And then with regards to the two lower gardens, فِيهِمَا عَيْنَانِ نَضَّاخَتَانِ تَجْرِيَانِ. So both of them have فِيهِمَا عَيْنَانِ. Both of them have in them are عَيْنَانِ. And عَيْنَانِ are springs of water. The first of them are تَجْرِيَانِ. They're running. They're overflowing outwards. You can see them in the ground. They're running. تَجْرِيَانِ. And the second one, نَضَّاخَتَانِ. And نَضَّاخَتَانِ means they're bubbling out. So which one is higher? تَجْرِيَانِ or نَضَّاخَتَانِ?
Flowing. Tajriyan.
Tajriyan means the rivers are flowing. Nadakhatan means they're bubbling out of the well. So Tajriyan is they're flowing in the middle. Nadakhatan, they're coming outwards. Both are there. But again, the higher level, as we said, always has an added extra. And now, one of the things we need to mention here is that the descriptions of Jannah, a lot of times, many non-Muslims mock and they say, Subhanallah, they don't say Subhanallah, excuse me, let me take that back. They say, your Jannah, it has the equivalent. Yes, they have the equivalent. Your Jannah, it has gardens and water and whatnot. We'll get to the hoor, don't worry, we're all waiting for that, I know. Okay, we'll get to that in a while. Now, what type of paradise is this? Isn't this a paradise for the Arabs of Arabia? That they wanted date palms and they wanted water and they wanted greenery? What type of universal paradise is this? We respond by saying that you cannot change the fitrah of human beings. The inner nature of men and women is the same. And it is true that date palms and flowing rivers might not be our idea of Jannah, of luxury, but every single luxurious place in this world combines greenery and water. Does it not? Every single place of luxury. And the most luxurious resorts and what we consider the most exotic vacations, Seychelles and Maldives and Cancun or whatever it might be. What is it about all of those places? Greenery, beach, water. This is the reality of human. You cannot change it, right? And when the multimillionaires build their palaces, every one of those palaces, it has swimming pools and luxurious trees, and this is Jannat, tajri min tahtiha al-anhar. Yes, exactly, it is the same. And you cannot change the base nature of man. We love water and greenery as being a sign of luxury. It's ingrained in us. And this is exactly what is mentioned as being a part of our Jannah up there. And so there is nothing that we should be embarrassed or ashamed about. The reality is that the Jannat that are described is exactly what we try to replicate in this world. When somebody builds their luxury mansions, what luxury mansion exists without having a fancy garden and a swimming pool in the backyard? You tell me. There is no luxury mansion in the world, no matter where you are, except that there will be similar, maybe not date palms with rivers, okay, that might be madani, agreed, but the concept of water and foliage and greenery, this is ingrained in us. And this is exactly what the civilization that we live in as well likes to think of as luxury. So, we've described the vivid images of trees, of greenery, of its never-ending watery supply. What's next? The next is the types of fruits. So in the higher level, فِيهِمَا مِن كُلِّ فَاكِهَةٍ زَوْجَانِ. In them are two of every type of fruits. Once again, the duality is being mentioned. The whole surah has duality. In them are two of every type of fruits. And in verse 68 in the lower level, فِيهِمَا فَاكِهَةٌ وَنَخْلٌ وَرُمَّانٌ. Once again, now clearly which of the two is superior?
52.
The first one. Of every fruit there are two. And then the second one only mentions three things. فَاكِهَةٌ النَّخْلَ and rumman. The list is limited. Right? And this, in my opinion, also clearly shows that the two first categories are higher than the other two categories, as we explained in our last lesson. Now, in the first category, فِيهِمَا مِن كُلِّ فَاكِهَةٍ زَوْجَانِ. There are two pairs of each and every fruit. So, the number of fruits is infinite. And of that infinity, you multiply it by two. The number of fruits is infinite, it's not mentioned. مِن كُلِّ فَاكِهَةٍ. And then, those fruits, multiply them by two. How do we multiply them by two? Some scholars say that the meaning of multiplied by two, because fruits themselves are of different varieties. So, for example, how many types of apples are there? There's Macintosh apples, there's this type of apples, there's that type of apples, right? So they say that's one meaning of zawjan. Another interpretation, they are two seasons of the same fruit. So, for example, we have dates. We just talked about dates having multiple seasons. You have rutab, you have yabis, you have this, you have that. You have different seasons of the dates, right? And therefore, min kulli fakihatin zawjan means that they are having different seasons of the fruits. And of course, both of these are correct interpretations. As for the second, there are three primary fruits mentioned. And perhaps there are more than these three, but Allah Azza wa Jalla is emphasizing these three. فَاكِهَةٌ وَنَخْلٌ وَرُمَّانٌ. And we've done fakiha, we said generically fakiha is fruits, but it does primarily signify apple, especially when it comes in a list like this. But it could mean generically any type of fruit. And nakhl, we know exactly what it is. And rumman is pomegranates. Rumman is pomegranates. And therefore from this we also learn that pomegranates are a blessed fruit as well, and they are of the fruits of Jannah. Okay, so now we talked about the fruits and vegetables. What next? Now we talk about their sitting down. What are they sitting down on? Verse 54, their furniture. Verse 54. Verse 54. مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَى رَفْرَفٍ مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَى فُرُشٍ بَطَائِلُهَا مِنْ إِسْتَبْرَقٍ مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَى فُرُشٍ. They are reclining. This is exactly the same as Surah Yasin we did yesterday, right? And we talked about reclining being the ultimate posture of comfort. Lazy boy, right? Ittika. You only do ittika to enjoy. There is no purpose of ittika except to relax, to chill out. It's exactly what ittika is for. You recline, you don't sit up straight, and you don't lie down to go to sleep. You are reclining, muttaki'in. Ala furush, upon cushions, upon couches. Bata'inuha, the inner linings of the couches. Bata'in, the inner linings. Min istabraq, are from fine silver, fine silk. Istabraq is soft silk. Istabraq is soft silk. وَجَنَى الْجَنَّتَيْنِ دَانٍ. And the two gardens are close by, dangling what they need to dangle. The fruits are within grasp. وَجَنَى الْجَنَّتَيْنِ. And there is, of course, what is called in English alliteration, and in Arabic it has its tajnis or ijnas, which is جَنَى الْجَنَّتَيْنِ, the similar sounding, to make it rhythmic. جَنَى الْجَنَّتَيْنِ دَانٍ, that the two gardens are close by and they are dangling the fruits. So the meaning here, these two gardens that Allah references, they will not be far away. Whatever fruit you want, as Ibn Abbas says, all he needs to do is to imagine the fruit, and that fruit will lower its branch on top of him. That fruit will simply lean over. وَجَنَى الْجَنَّتَيْنِ دَانٍ. That he doesn't even have to get up and pick the fruit. Lying down on that couch, and the fruit will simply come to him. وَجَنَى الْجَنَّتَيْنِ دَانٍ. And realize as well that the people of Jannah will not need to lie down because they don't need to go to sleep. The people of Jannah will never sleep. Because our Prophet ﷺ said, sleep is the brother of death. And realize as well that the people of Jannah never get full. You can eat and your stomach will never feel any pain, any full, you're not going to have to get stuffed. And realize as well that the people of Jannah never need to go to the bathroom. There is no najis in Jannah. And the food will simply just dissolve up. Sound effects there. Do it again. The food will simply dissolve up instantaneously. And there won't be any need to go to the restroom. Right? And realize as well that food and drink will never need to be eaten or drunk because of hunger or thirst. I.e., you are eating just for the enjoyment of the food. You're not eating because you're hungry. Because when you're hungry, you cannot enjoy the taste of the food. When you're thirsty, you cannot enjoy the taste of the drink. You just want to drink. In Jannah, there is no hunger, there is no thirst. إِنَّكَ لَا تَظْمَأُ فِيهَا وَلَا تَضْحَى, as Allah says to Adam alayhi salam. You will never go hungry or thirsty or tired in Jannah. So, eating and drinking is done literally for the pleasure of eating and drinking. And it is infinite, as much as you want, without ever having to worry about feeling stuffed or feeling tired or not. Anything of this is out of the window, and that is of the blessings of Jannah. And yesterday we also mentioned that they will be surrounded by their families, and therefore conversation as well. There will be conversation in Jannah as well. The people whom you love, the people whom you liked, they will be of those you can have conversations with. Now, بَطَائِنُهَا مِنْ إِسْتَبْرَقٍ. The inner linings of the couches will be made from istabraq. And istabraq, some say, it is a soft silk with gold decorations. And istabraq is a Persian word that the Arabs took. Istabraq is not originally an Arabic word. So, if the inner linings of the couch are istabraq, what do you think the outer lining will be? Once again, by mentioning the inner, and nobody talks about the inner. When you buy a sofa, nobody tells you what is inside the covering of the sofa. You all consider what is outside. But the reference here is that if this is inside, outside cannot even be described in your language. The bata'in is the most luxurious that you can imagine. So what do you think will be on the outer side? بَطَائِنُهَا مِنْ إِسْتَبْرَقٍ وَجَنَى الْجَنَّتَيْنِ دَانٍ. So notice here that we began with the issue of property, then the descriptions of that property, then where the water comes from, then what grows in it, then who lives in it, and then what they are sitting on. Now we get to the controversial bit. Drum roll, please. Only the brothers drum roll. Okay, let's begin. Oh God, I'm in California. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Who attended the previous class? Okay, where were we? Let's just skip over the next 5 verses. The brothers are like staring at me with dead anger. Okay, yallah. We now get to the issue of hoor. Now, let's begin this on a serious note, if that's even possible with the brothers. Brothers obviously love this topic. They can never get enough of it. They're tickled by it, and the jokes that they crack are infinite in this regard. No doubt, sisters feel a lot of times very awkward, and many of them don't understand it. Many of them find it very uncomfortable, and frankly, it is understandable. Both of these emotions are understandable. Now, it is obviously very difficult to talk about the issue of hoor al-ayn in a manner that is neutral, in a manner that doesn't get involved in issues of sexuality and whatnot. Nonetheless, the Quran is very explicit. And the question arises, why would the Quran be so explicit about the issue of hoor al-ayn? And the response is very obvious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and He knows what men desire, and He knows what women desire. And the fact of the matter is, no matter how much our sisters do not like this issue, that men, all of them basically, they desire this issue. And it is something that is ingrained in their very fitrah. And this is why when the brothers think of Jannah, they always think of this element of Jannah. It is a part of their desires of Jannah. And Allah is using it to entice men. Now women, on the other hand, if you were to ask 10 women to visualize Jannah, you will get 10 different visualizations of Jannah. Meaning, they have different desires. And they have different ideas of what will be that utopia. Also, the issue of sexuality is one that, by and large, women have more haya about. Women have more modesty about. And therefore, they are not enticed with this in Jannah, even though there are equivalents in that no person will be single in Jannah. There's a hadith, لَيْسَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ أَعْزَبٍ. There's nobody single in Jannah. Because being single is incomplete. Sorry for those who are not married yet, but this is the truth. Being single, you are not full yet. And when you get married, you have found some complementary, some perfection. And in Jannah, nobody is going to be incomplete. So even women will have spouses. Now, will they have spouses that are special for them? Or will they be wed to one of the men of Jannah? Allahu A'lam. But they will have spouses. And the pleasures that the men want, the women will also have. But Allah Azza wa Jal does not mention that explicitly, because it is not of the modesty of women to have this explicitly mentioned in front of them. Also, on a very frank note as well, brothers, you really do need to become mature about this topic. And by this I mean very frank here, it's not funny for your wives to always have this joked about and shoved in front of their faces. You're not going to gain any sympathy from your wife by cracking jokes about hoor al-ayn. You want hoor al-ayn? Pray tahajjud at night. By cracking jokes in front of your wife, you're not going to get hoor al-ayn. You might get a few bruises. You might sleep on the couch. But you're not going to get your hoor al-ayn simply by dangling it in the face of your wife, right? It's not, frankly, I'm being very frank here, it's not gentlemanly. Our Prophet ﷺ never once joked about hoor al-ayn with his wives. You think you're going to gain your wife's love by this type of joke? It's not going to be something that's beneficial to the marriage, right? Sisters as well. Some sisters, they really, I have met sisters, wallahi, their iman in Islam was shaken about this topic, right? And frankly, I think that's going a bit too far. When you get to Jannah, Allah will remove any jealousy, any hasad, any everything. You're not going to feel anything. So the goal is to get to Jannah. And once you're there, you will have your pleasures. And you will have all that your heart desires. And what your husband has or doesn't have is not going to cause any issues for you as it would in this dunya. Also, there's an athar from Aisha, and it is narrated by Qurtubi and others, that Aisha mentioned to the other women of her time that, and Allah knows of His authenticity, Qurtubi mentions this, and as we said, these types of athar, we don't have to be that strict about their authenticity, but Aisha says that we will boast over the hoors of Jannah. We will be able to boast above the hoors of Jannah, because we will tell the hoors, we were the ones who fasted, we were the ones who thirsted in Ramadan, we were the ones who did the ibadat, and we will be getting the rewards. The hoor will not get the rewards of Jannah. They are of the rewards of Jannah. Whereas the women will get the rewards of Jannah. And there is a big difference between the two. The women will enjoy Jannah. The hoor are of the enjoyment of Jannah. So women cannot, there is no competition, right? And it is also mentioned by our scholars, and Allah knows there's no authentic hadith or something, but it would make sense if this is true, and this is an interpretation, that the love that the husband has, it will be for the wife. The hoor is an enjoyment and pleasure, but nothing will change the love of the wife. And in fact, there are indirect references in Surah Yasin, that hum wa azwajuhum, not them and the hoors will be talking, hum wa azwajuhum fi dhilalin ala ra'ihim muttaki'un. And nothing can change the companionship and the love and the intimacy that a spouse has. And therefore, sisters as well, no doubt it is uncomfortable a lot of times, and I am not a woman, but I can somewhat sympathize with this, that it would feel uncomfortable. How come my husband is being promised these things in Jannah? And it is awkward. Okay, this is one of those things that really you just have to accept it because Allah Azza wa Jal mentions it, right? And I'll be very frank here, sometimes when people start talking about hoor al-ayn, the sisters literally want to shut off. They want to close their ears, they want to walk out or something. This is your Quran, and it's my Quran. This is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to have such an adamant disgust, frankly, one needs to reassess their trust in Allah. I'm not asking you to appreciate, I'm asking you to accept. Allah knows best. Let it go, right? Allah knows best. Your goal is to get to Jannah. And once you're there, these issues are not going to bother you. In the meantime, there has to be a base level of acceptance. I'm not asking you to rejoice at the existence of hoor al-ayn, okay. But I'm also warning you of rejecting. Because I have met a number of sisters. As I said, their iman in Islam has been shaken. Because they are so angry at the concept of hoor. A'udhu billah. You will reject Islam because of one issue you don't understand? Think about it. You're going to question Allah's wisdom? Every man here understands this wisdom. Whether you understand it or not, everyone here understands it. This is an incentive we know. And we appreciate. And it will incentivize us to be better. Every man knows this. Right? Allah created us. He knows what to dangle in front of us. Allah created us. He knows what we want in Jannah. And the sisters, they will have their rewards as well, as Aisha said. And they will enjoy Jannah, not the hoors. They will have the ultimate pleasures of Jannah. Nonetheless, with that long disclaimer, we do have to start talking about the descriptions given. Now, also realize, by the way, and I have to say this as well, that subhanAllah, by and large, generally speaking, there are not detailed descriptions of hoor in the Quran. We do find them in the Sunnah, by the way, but not in the Quran. And even in this, there is wisdom. Enough is mentioned, but the Quran does not go down to the detailed description. And this is also of Allah's wisdom, that there is an element of dignity as well in the Quran. That enough is mentioned for the imagination, but not something that is very detailed or explicit. And that's something that, again, it shows the level of, if you like, discourse of the Quran. So, let us begin with verse 56. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فِيهِنَّ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ فِيهِنَّ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ In them, فِيهِنَّ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ are women who lower their gaze. قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ, their gazes are lowered. لَمْ يَطْمِثْهُنَّ إِنسٌ قَبْلَهُمْ وَلَا جَانٌ They have not been polluted by any men or jinn before their husbands. Before their husbands is in commentary, obviously it's not mentioned before their husbands. No one has polluted them before, any man or any jinn. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ كَأَنَّهُنَّ الْيَاقُوتُ وَالْمَرْجَانِ As if they are like rubies and corals. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ Shall the reward of excellence be anything less than excellence itself? Okay, so this is the description of the hoor al-ayn in the first level. Notice the word hoor is not mentioned in this level. The word hoor is mentioned in the other level. Rather, over here is mentioned فِيهِنَّ قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ In them are women, because it's the feminine, قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ They lower their gaze. What does it mean, lower their gaze? Of the meanings of lower their gaze is that they have no desire at all for any other man except their husband. They don't even want to look at anybody else. So their gaze is lowered. قَاصِرَاتُ الطَّرْفِ And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them with only one love in mind, and that is their husbands. With only one source in mind, and that is their husbands. They have no desire even to look anywhere else. And we all know how strong first loves are, right? Those are the loves that are always remembered and cherished. The qasirat al-tarf have never had any love, except for those whom Allah has created for them. And the hoor knows their name from now. As we learn from the ahadith, the hoor knows the name of their person, and Allah has created them for this person. Allah has created them for this person. There's another meaning as well in the Arabic language. And that meaning is, qasiratu tarf means they will cause their husband's gaze to be limited to them. Which means, now that's a powerful woman. She's so beautiful that even the husband will have no need to look at any other woman. Qasiratu tarf for the husband. Both are allowed in Arabic. Qasiratu tarf, the woman here. Qasiratu tarf, the woman is causing his gaze to be directly at her only. Right? So, he's fixated only on her. How beautiful must be this woman that the man is never distracted at all. And that is Jannah. Can't happen in this world, right? Brothers, you guys don't remember last class? Anyway, last class. Yes, California. Anyway, طيب. لم يطمثهن. Oh yes, you're really guilty, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم. طمث means, it's a very actually explicit verb, and it means the breaking of the hymen. This is what طمث means. And so لم يطمثهن. This is literally what it translates as. That they have not been broken in that manner, no man or no jinn. And this means that they are created just for their husbands, so physically and emotionally exclusive for their husbands. Physically they have not been touched. By the way, this ayah also proves that jinns engage in intercourse. Because jinns also can pollute. لَمْ يَطْمِثْ إِنسٌ قَبْلَهُمْ وَلَا جَانٌ. Jinns as well have copulation. And they will have their equivalents in Jannah. And we will have our equivalents in Jannah. لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان. Allah is describing them as if they are. They are not. As if they are. كأنهن. And He describes them as yaqut. Yaqut is the common term for rubies. And many scholars say the allusion here is to the redness that every man finds appealing. And to this day, when women want to beautify themselves, what do? They take their powder and they redden themselves, right? What is that reddening called? Anyway, the blush, that's it, yeah. These terms, yes, the blush, okay? This is the yaqut. Is that naturally, without them having to use whatever the things are, right? The fake ones, they are naturally yaqut. They are naturally like rubies. Marjan can either mean corals, in which case, if it's corals, it's an allusion to their fragility and their delicateness, or it is an allusion to small whitish pearls. Marjan is also pearls. It's a small lu'lu' is marjan. In which case, the allusion is to their purity and their radiance and their protection. Qatada said, their purity shall be like yaqut, and their whiteness shall be like marjan. And at the end, the point is Allah Azza wa Jalla describing the beauty of the qasiratul tarf. How about the second level? How about the other level? This is from verses 70 to 74. 70 to 74. فِيهِنَّ خَيْرَاتٌ حِسَانٌ. Okay, all of you guys were paying so much attention to the hoor al-ayn, you forgot there is a difference in how the hoor are described, in which pronoun is used. Throughout the whole section of Jannah, فِيهِمَا 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 فِيهِمَا. And only for the hoors in both categories, what does it say? Fihinna. None of you noticed because your brains went automatically to other topics. Fihinna. Why? Why this change? Why not fihima, 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 and then when it comes to hoor, fihima as well, khayratun hisan? No, fihinna khayratun hisan. Why fihinna? Well, here's a beautiful, beautiful point. Fihinna means deep inside, covered, not publicly shown. This is what fihinna signifies. The hoor al-ayn, we don't want others to look at them. Whereas the jannat and the trees and the couches, this is public view. Let everybody look at it. Every man boasts about his palace, right? Every man wants to show off his swimming pool, his vegetation and whatnot. But any man with ghiyara and iman, he doesn't want to show off his wife. He doesn't want to show off the hoor. That's private. So what does Allah say? فِيهِنَّ. To give an illusion, not illusion, to give an illusion to that these species and creatures will not be for public viewing. This is private. And that's what the simply from فِيهِمَا to فِيهِنَّ indicates. And amazingly, both times that the hoor are mentioned, it's فِيهِنَّ. And it's the only time that فِيهِنَّ occurs, otherwise it is all فِيهِمَا. And there's also an indication that hidden amongst all of these gardens and all of these foliage and all of these rivers, somewhere deep inside, secluded from the eyes of others, فِيهِنَّ. There you will find these hoor. And this is in fact exactly what the Prophet ﷺ himself said, that, well, we'll get to that in the next ayah, but here, فِيهِنَّ خَيْرَاتٌ حِسَانٌ. فِيهِنَّ خَيْرَاتٌ حِسَانٌ. Khayrat is the opposite of shar. Khayr. And khayrat is the feminine. So these are women who have no evil. They have no rancor. They have no jealousy. And also, they have no najis as well. They have no menses. They have no pollution. And the same will be for men. They're not going to have any excrement, any urine as well. So both men and women are going to be pure in Jannah. And hisan is the plural of hasna. And hasna means beautiful, stunning. So they are khayrat, pure internally, and hisan, beautiful externally. Khayratun hisan. Internally and externally, they have everything, but everything that is beautiful and pure. And then for the first time in this surah, حُورٌ مَقْصُورَاتٌ فِي الْخِيَامِ. They will be hoor, مَقْصُورَاتٌ فِي الْخِيَامِ, sequestered, put aside, مَقْصُورَات فِي الْخِيَامِ, in tents. Now, the word hoor has no English equivalent at all. It's a very unique word, and it comes from hawar. And hawar is the description given of a woman who has large eyes with a strong contrast between the blackness of the pupil and the whiteness of the iris. This is what hawar means. There is no English equivalent at all. That the whiteness of the outer eyes is contrasted with the darkness of the pupils. And the eyes are large. This is hawar. And if you look at, to this day, the modern definition of beauty, not that I'm suggesting any brothers need to stare at models, but if you look at modern definitions of beauty, one of the main characteristics of every supermodel is her large eyes, and there is always a contrast. There is a contrast. The whiteness of the eye and the pupil, there is a contrast. And the Arabs in particular, they like the blackness. And in our culture, you have green and blue and whatnot. But still, the contrast and the largeness of the eyes and the symmetry, this is something that hoor is suggested. Now, it is well known that this characteristic, the whiteness and the blackness, is not the main characteristic of beauty. Yes, it is one, but it is not the main. And yet, Allah Azza wa Jal describes them as hoor. So why concentrate on the eyes? Two reasons. Number one, we're being told that the eyes are so perfect, so what do you think the rest of the body is going to be? If the eyes have so much beauty, how about the rest? And then number two, as we already referenced, the Quran generally does not describe the other portions of the body because it is not befitting for the Quran to do so. Only very rarely, once or twice, are other descriptions given of the body. وَكَوَاعِبَ أَتْرَابًا, for example. Otherwise, generally speaking, the Quran does not describe the other parts of the body, and it leaves it to generic, beautiful, hisan, khayratun hisan, hoor. And this is more befitting the majesty of the Quran. Now, notice in the second category, hoor are maqsurat, meaning being kept apart. Whereas in the first category, the women are qasirat. Notice the difference. The higher level, qasirat. The lower level, maqsurat. And there is a subtle difference here. This is a very subtle way of demonstrating that the first category are more loving, hence more passionate than the second category. They themselves are qasirat. Whereas the second category, the lower category, they have to be made maqsurat. Qasirat, they're doing it themselves. They're lowering their gaze themselves. The second category, maqsurat, they have been put aside. There's a subtle way of saying that the first category, they are more emotional, more passionate, more loving. They're doing it themselves. Qasirat. Whereas the second category, maqsurat, they have been placed in tents. Maqsuratun fil khiyam, placed in tents. Khiyam is tents. Now, do you think the tent is going to be made out of sheepskin? Out of camel wool? Obviously not. Our Prophet ﷺ said that the palace, the tents that they have, shall be made out of hollow pearls. A pearl that is so massive you cannot see its end. And the tent will be carved into the pearl. The palaces will be made literally out of pearl. And the Prophet ﷺ said, hadith is a Sahih Muslim, in Jannah there shall be one tent for the believers made out of hollow pearl. 60 miles long. 60 miles. One tent. That's one of the many tents. One of the many houses. 60 miles long. And in every corner shall be inhabitants that the other corners cannot see. And the believer shall take turns visiting his family. So it's so large, every corner has inhabitants the other corner cannot see, and the believer shall take turns visiting them. Now, after talking about all of these blessings, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, by the way, لَمْ يَطْمِثْهُنَّ إِنسٌ قَبْلَ وَلَا جَانٍ is exactly the same. Both of them have the same blessing, right? That the hoor has been created just for them. لَمْ يَطْمِثْهُنَّ إِنسٌ قَبْلَهُمْ وَلَا جَانٍ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes in verse number 76, and by the way, for some reason that I have not found anybody mentioning, and I don't know myself, and I have thought about this as well, the only difference in order between the higher level and the lower level is with regards to the cushions. In the higher level, the cushions are mentioned before the hoor, whereas in the second level, the cushions are mentioned after the hoor. And I have not found any scholar of tafsir demonstrating or discussing this wisdom, and I myself am clueless about why this is the case, but I have not lost hope of finding it in some book somewhere. And if any of you find anything, please do email or tell me if you find any scholar mentioning some wisdom, because everything is in perfect order, right? The jannahs, the quality, the water, everything is in order. So only one point, the order is swapped. You guys see this, right? Only in one point the order is swapped. And I have not found out a wisdom why this is the case, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We're getting to the very end of the surah, 76. مُتَّكِئِينَ عَلَى رَفْرَفٍ خُضْرٍ وَعَبْقَرِيٍّ حِسَانٍ. Once again, the muttaki'een for the lower level. We talked about muttaki'een for the higher level. Now, muttaki'een ala rafraf. They will be reclining upon rafraf. Rafraf has two meanings. Both of them are valid. The first is, for rafraf, is a cushion. And a cushion, of course, is something you put on a bed, or something you put on a sofa. And the other meaning of rafraf is a rug, the carpet. So, either they are on a cushion or they are on a carpet, the difference is trivial. مُتَّكِينَ عَلَى رَفْرَفٍ. What is this rafraf? How is it described? خُضْرٍ وَعَبْقَرِيٍّ حِسَانٍ. Three things are described here. Khudr. Khudr, of course, means green. And green is a color that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen to bring comfort to us. Green is the color of plants, of trees. Green is the symbol of life. And yes, it is also true to take, especially for those living in the deserts. No doubt green gave them far more pleasure than we who are accustomed to green will achieve. So, خُضْرٍ وَعَبْقَرِيٍّ حِسَانٍ. However, do realize that Green is simply one of the colors, and there are many other colors in Jannah. And one of my favorite phrases in the hadith of Isra wal Mi'raj, the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw Sidrat al-Muntaha, which is the highest tree in Jannah, what did he say? He said, and there were colors on that tree that were enveloping it that I cannot describe for you. There are colors beyond the limited spectrum that we have in our window, right? Red, orange, green, yellow, blue, indigo, violet. This is our spectrum. We have no conception of color beyond this very limited spectrum. And our Prophet ﷺ said, when I went up there, I saw colors. I don't know how to describe them to you. So even the colors, imagine, subhanAllah, even the colors are beyond our description. What do you think of the things in Jannah itself? So, خضر وعبقري. Abqari. What does abqari mean? Oh, Arabs, what does abqari? Genius. So you're sitting on a genius cushion. It's an iPad automatically in there. You have all the instruments you need. Abqari. Abqari does not mean genius, O people of the Arabic language. Abqari now means genius. But abqari originally meant something else. And even in the ahadith it is used as something else. The Prophet used the word abqari, by the way. Quiz. This deserves a prize, but I have nothing to give you. Which sahabi did the Prophet describe with this adjective of abqari? Raise your hand. Which sahabi is described? Adam, how do you know? Do we have this conversation?
No, I was going to guess.
You sure? Because I had a conversation with you in the car, didn't I? When I came last month. Right? Yes, we did. So I think you're off limits. Yahi, when you were driving me from the convention, we had a conversation about abqari. I remember vividly. You're cheating. Which sahabi did the Prophet describe as abqari? Yes? No? Yes? No, that's not the question. The question is, which sahabi did he describe as abqari? Which sahabi?
He was asking his friend, the Akhbari is on the Medina, they are coming to Medina or what?
Not quite. You're not quite though. You don't have the right answer, even though you have the right answer. It is Umar ibn al-Khattab, but your story is not at all relevant to this one. The Prophet ﷺ described Umar ibn al-Khattab in a hadith in Sahih Bukhari that I saw him pulling water, and he was abqariyun. And in this sense, abqari does not mean genius. He was doing an amazing job. Right? Huh? I didn't hear you. You said it. Well, I didn't hear you now, I didn't hear you before. Right? You need to be a little bit more firm. Okay. The word abqari has a very interesting history. So, O people who speak Arabic, you can impress your friends with this trivia, even though you should not be impressing your friends, but anyway. Abqari is the name given to a mythical city that Arabic folklore and legend said is the capital of the jinn. As if the jinn have a magical land and their capital is called Abqar. So anybody who's from there is Abqari. So if anybody did anything amazing, he would be called Abqari. Fahim? Abqar, right? Abqari, mansub ila Abqar, right? Nisba ila Abqar. And Abqar is Medina min al-Mudun, right? It's from the fables of the Arabs, legends. It's not a real city. يقال إنها مدينة الجن فنسب إليه كل من فعل شيء خيالي. Anybody who did something amazing, he would be called, you are from Abqar. Something amazing, he is called Abqari. Right? And in our modern Arabic, it is almost exclusively used for a genius. But even in classical Arabic, such as the hadith of Bukhari says, Abqari is something that is above and beyond regular and normal. It's amazing. Right? In any case, with that long tangent, back to Surah Rahman, we're one ayah away. خضر وعبقري حسان. Abqari here means, it is a reference to that pillow as being beyond description. And Hisan is of course beautiful. It's luxurious beyond description and beautiful. Then فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concludes the surah after describing all of these descriptions of Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala concludes the surah by saying تَبَارَكَ اسْمُ رَبِّكَ ذِي الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. تَبَارَكَ اسْمُ رَبِّكَ. It is a regular Quranic custom to begin and to end surahs by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillah. How many surahs begin Sabbaha lillah, Yusabbihu lillah, Alhamdulillah? How many surahs begin Tabarak alladhi tabarak? How many surahs end in praising Allah and in commanding us to praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the word Tabarak comes from Barakah. And Tabarak ala wazni tafa'ul means Allah Azza wa Jal possesses the ultimate barakah. And Allah is the source of barakah. And barakah means, what does barakah mean, O people of light of guidance? Barakah means, I've mentioned this very explicitly in light of guidance. Barakah means the increasement of good. Ziyadatul khair. The increasement of good. And therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of all good, tabarak. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who, one of the meanings of tabarak also is that there is no evil. If He is the source of all good, there is no evil in Him and ascribed to Him. This is one of the meanings of tabarak. If all good is in Allah, then there is no evil coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and no evil ascribed to Him, and no fault in Him. All of this is tabarak. There's no fault in Him. That's what tabarak means. Notice over here, and it's a common Quranic custom, that praise is being given to tabarak ismu rabbik, the name of your Lord. The word ism is here. You are praising the name of your Lord. Tabarak ismu rabbik. And this is very common in the Quran. سبح اسم ربك فسبح باسم ربك العظيم. And we also have tabarak and sabbah and hamd given directly to Allah. فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهِ. And here we have tabarak اسم ربك. And we have سبح لله. And we have سبح اسم ربك. Are you guys following what I'm saying? Right? So we have both in the Quran, and this is complementary to each other. If the name of Allah is worthy of being praised, how much more so Allah Himself? If the name of Allah is worthy of showing hamd and tasbih and tabarak, how much more so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself? And notice here a very interesting way of concluding the ayah, concluding the surah. Tabarak asmu rabbika. Rabbika. Who's the kaf? Who's the kaf referring to? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, your Lord. The very first time in the surah, our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is directly mentioned. We notice the whole surah did not mention him once directly. But right before the surah finishes, he is mentioned. Directly, because it's a direct pronoun. Right? It's a direct pronoun. So all tabarak be to your Lord. And by choosing to reference himself as your Lord, this accomplishes many things. Firstly, it is an honor for the Prophet ﷺ to be mentioned. Out of all of the creation, Allah is saying, I am your Rabb. It's an honor for him. Secondly, the relationship is being emphasized. The relationship is being emphasized. That of the meanings of Rabb is protector. of the meanings of Rabb is protector. And it is as if our Prophet is being told, I will take care of you, I am your Rabb. Thirdly, there is an indication that anyone who wants these blessings of Jannah needs to believe in this special relationship of Rabbika. Meaning what? You have to believe in the Prophet ﷺ. You will not enter Jannah without believing in this special Rabbika. And this is important because Risala was not mentioned in Surah Rahman. But now it is mentioned. And Allah Azza wa Jalla is referencing, if you want these blessings, you have to also believe that the Prophet ﷺ has that special relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rabbika dhil jalali wal ikram. Over here, jalali wal ikram is a description of Allah, Rabbika. Whereas before, it was a description of the face of Allah. Wajhu rabbika dhul jalali wal ikram. Over here, tabarak asmu rabbika dhil jalali. And there's basic i'rab for those who understand i'rab, that the reference to Jalal wa Ikram goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Jalal, we've already said, is honor and might. And it is a description of His name, Ismu Rabbik. So if Allah's name is worthy of Jalal, how much more so Allah is worthy of Jalal. And Ikram means the one who gives, the one who is generous. And what a fitting way to end the surah. All of these blessings we cannot deny. Where does it come from? The one full of honor and the one full of generosity and giving. And with this we conclude our tafsir of Surah Rahman, and we have already concluded Surah Yasin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who enjoy all of these blessings of Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who have all of these Jannat simultaneously. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us and our spouses amongst those who are reclining in luxurious couches in the shades of Jannah, eating of the fruits of Jannah, drinking of the waters of Jannah, enjoying the blessings of Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make us of those who reject or deny or not thank Him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause us to be of those whom the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives shafa'ah for, and may his shafa'ah for us be accepted. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause us to live as Muslims and to die as mu'mins and to be resurrected as believers along with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And with this we conclude our class. And what is the program calling for now? We have time for questions. We have time for questions. So if we can hand in questions. We have time for questions, insha'Allah ta'ala. Yalla, make some announcements. So very quickly I'll go over the questions that I have. And then afterwards there's one announcement before we all break up. Quickly, sisters, if we can just pay attention, just 10 minutes and we're done. Is it true that dhikr causes the trees and flowers of Jannah to grow? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Every dhikr we do will bring about a new tree or a new shrub in Jannah. This is something explicitly mentioned. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah akbar. Hadith is At-Tirmidhi. The Prophet Ibrahim told our Prophet Muhammad to tell us. So we have directly from the sources in Jannah that this was going to happen. Can you explain, will the exam be based upon what you taught us in class? Or some of the material not covered in the binder? As I explained to you, the binder was not written by me. So the exam will be based, my exam is my exam. So what I said in class, if I didn't cover something in the binder, don't worry about it, right? It's only what I covered in class is what you will be tested on. One of our sisters wonders, if a woman has had two husbands, one after the other, which one will she get to be in Jannah with? It's a valid question. It's a valid question. And the response is, there are two opinions about the issue. That was a joke. Allah knows. Allah knows. And there are two opinions. One scholar says whichever of the two you want, and the other says the most recent one. And again, the goal is to get to Jannah, right? Once you get there, then it's all going to be sorted out. Which reminds me once of a counseling session I was doing, that a sister had a husband who wasn't really very nice, and really he was just really bad. And it wasn't abusive, but not the best and whatnot. I said, they had children. I said, sister, just be patient. Inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jalla will, bless you with your patience. And, inshallah, you'll be in Jannah with him. It's like, even in Jannah, I have to be with him? That was like, ouch. Okay. One of the brothers or sisters says, what if you are very scared of jinn? You said this is not a sign of tawheed. We talked about this in light of guidance. I said excessive paranoia about the jinn will cause you to act weirdly. You really start acting strangely. And we need to get over this. Allah Azza wa Jalla will take care of us. Allah Azza wa Jalla will take care of us. And we need to minimize this obsession that we have. And frankly, the jinns sense your fear of them. And the more you fear them, the more they love it. And the more you show your bravery, the more you intimidate them. It's actually weird, right? The more you show your bravery, the more they're scared of you. So honestly, I can tell you plenty of stories, but I don't tell jinn stories. I have plenty of experience in this regard. Wallahi, the more you trust Allah and the more you say Bismillah and whatnot, the more this protects you from the jinn. Are thoughts punishable? Generally speaking, thoughts are not punishable. Generally speaking, as long as you don't act upon them, we get rid of them, they are not punishable. And this is a hadith, my Lord has forgiven what my ummah whispers to itself. Whatever you imagine or whatnot, as long as you don't really act upon it, it is forgiven. Do we have levels of Jannah and names for every level? No, we don't have how many levels are in Jannah. We don't have names for every level. We simply know there are lots and lots of levels, and between one level to the next is like us and the stars. These types of things are narrated. We don't have specific names. We have some names here and there, but definitely not a hierarchy of Jannah. Does every single man get hoor in Jannah or just shaheed? Alhamdulillah, every single man. Every single man. But the shaheed gets more quantity. And from this, some have derived that all men will get, depending on their quantity. But for sure, every man has at least 2 according to one hadith. Can you take a poll, how many students have not taken Light of Guidance, and therefore, if I offer it, how many will enroll? Light of Guidance. Where's Amir? Huh? If I were to offer it, how many would take Light of Guidance? Okay. So, but realize it's not, and it's HQ, it's headquarters, right? January, inshallah. January. Yeah, the one thing you guys really have working in your favor is the weather. It's like the only thing really that... Well, okay, let me take that. No, the company as well, mashallah. The brotherhood, the sisterhood especially writes in my comments, yes. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, somebody says, is horse meat halal? Where did this question come from? Oh, people of California, are you that desperate? Have they discovered horse meat here as well? Huh? Who took precious provisions? Is horse meat halal? No. You remembered wrong. Horse meat is halal if it's slaughtered properly. Okay. The final question will say, what advice would you give a sister who says, what is the motivation to work with my husband to please Allah only to share him with another in Jannah? What is the motivation to work with my husband to please Allah only to share him with another in Jannah? How do I respond to this? Sisters, what do you say? Just get to Jannah. Just get to Jannah, right? Okay, let me just conclude by there was a funny comment, not in your qabila, you can breathe a sigh of relief, right? Wallahi, it was one of the most hilarious requests I have ever gotten in my life. Last time I taught this class, I won't mention the city not to embarrass them, but I got a petition or a request from one of the brothers after I gave this class. He said, Sheikh, My wife forces me to make dua that I don't have any hoor in Jannah. Please ask her to stop. Wow. I laughed so hard after I read that question. The class just stopped for like 10 minutes, right? Because the brother was like, it's like, please tell my wife to stop. There's a desperation. In any case, alhamdulillah, you guys in California did not ask me that, so alhamdulillah, that's great. And inshallah, with this we conclude. Wa jazakumullah khair. As usual, I had a great time. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala combines us together many times for knowledge in this world and inshallah in the next world as well. One final announcement.